Mr. Charles, are you logging in with two accounts?
I tried to just get rid of the last account.
Because the first one, apparently I can't make it the panelist, so I'm going to use the second one. You are now a panelist, and you are now a presenter, so you can share your screen just below. At the bottom of the screen of your screen, you should be seeing share screen.
I'm not seeing share screen.
Okay. I think it's on the second account. Are you using a cell phone right now?
No, it's on my computer.
Okay, because normally you should be seeing share screen. Can you please
And there's no video as well. And there's also feedback. So can you hear me?
Yes, can you please stop sharing and then start sharing again?
There is no sharing and there's no video. Should I exit and try and come back in?
I'm seeing two accounts with the name Charles Vera.
Okay, maybe I should exit both accounts and come back in.
Okay, because the second one is already the presenter.
Okay, I'm going to stop both accounts and re-enter. Okay.
All right, no problem, sir. Yes, Dada. This is room C. Okay, thank you very much. No, this is room C. Sorry for the confusion. I'm also. All right, I'm going to make all the presenter of the session panelists so that when the time comes for them to present, I will make them presenter. Apparently, Mr. Charles is having some issues connecting back. Okay, Mr. Anthony, you are supposed to be our next presenter. Are you ready to present?
Yes, if you can allow me to on the share button, I can share my slides. They are already audio recorded.
All right, thank you very much.
Am I connected? I don't see my my share option active.
I am trying to make the person the person. Are you using a computer right now?
Yes, I'm in front of the computer.
All right, make present. So you should be able to see the share button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, now it's active. Let me check.
All right. So before you start, please keep in mind that you have 12 minutes, which are going to be followed by a Q&A session of 5 minutes. You can go ahead, sir. Mr. Anthony, we cannot hear you. Apparently you are muted.
Sorry, I can hear on my side.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Not muted. On my side, I can hear very well.
Yes, now we can hear you. We were unable to hear you before.
And can you hear this?
Yes, we can see the slide, but we cannot hear it.
Can I share? You cannot hear anything.
No, we do not hear any sound. Mr. Anthony, we are still unable to hear the slide.
Then go unless you are muted on your side. Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you talk, but I cannot hear the slide. So many also of our attendees.
Let me ask her to share.
Mr. Who?
Mrs. Zelda Senzile.
All right. Okay, so I should give her the floor.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Zanzile, we can still not hear the PowerPoint.
Okay, sir. You can give me the floor and then I'm gonna present direct. It's fine.
Yes, you can. I can give the floor to who?
To Anthony, and then I'm gonna just do direct because I cannot hear the sound as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, pressure.
You have the floor, Mr. Anthony.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Let me first. My name is Anthony Juguna Maderi from University of Johannesburg. Could you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
I'm gonna put my slides on the slide mode because it's gonna play the sound. And I'm presenting a colleague, Israel and Professor Daniel. And anaerobic digestion imported biogas production units that convert waste to energy. In this research, water cycling in the digested of anaerobic digestion was investigated and underutilization of the scarce resources. And digested is discharged in the dry beds to allow water to vaporize and the solid beds to be recovered. And anaerobic digestion is a process that breaks down biodegradable material under the absence of oxygen. And during this process, organic matter are disaggregated into simple chemical constituents through the hydrolysis process, acetogenesis, acidogenesis, and the methanogenesis process. The organic waste to be treated include farm waste, sewage sludge, solid waste from the landfill, industrial material, botanic waste, and the byproduct of anaerobic digestion of biogas and the digesteds, the quality of which depends on the feedstock and the level of contaminations. And the biogas and the digested can be further be treated for further purposes such as compositing of the digested. And according to the step I followed, you store it first, and then you carry out treatment using a sorting sterilization, which can be physical, chemical, and biological, and then the digestion process, which can be wet digestion or the dry digestions, and then from where you can be able to upgrade the gas, discharge, remove sulfur using the desalinizations, drying the gases using the by removal of the moisture content, carbon dioxide sequestrations, gas storage, and the gas utilization can be utilized under those forms, which is heat, electricity, CHP, and vehicle fuel, gas grid injections, and the latest technology of the fuel cells. And the digesters can be used like a fertilizer, and at the same time can use for construction material. And biogas stages can be described under the collections, pre-treatment, digestion, gas collection, and storage, and gas utilization. Wow. Yeah. Polypropylene of 120 micrometers and has similar properties, and BZT and a box 340 micrometer was the heaviest material used. And two testing materials were used to acknowledge the filtrations due to the
Excuse me, Mr. Charles. Excuse me
Yes,
to
sir.
interrupt you, but the audio
Yes.
is very broken since the beginning of your presentation. May you please try to check your connectivity?
My connectivity is fine.
Yes, now it's fine, but while presenting, the audio was breaking a lot.
Okay, apology for that.
Thank you.
Okay, according to the results we got on the solid content trapped, the number of solid trap, can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. The number of solid trapped by various filter fiber gave an indication of high suitability of the filter material performed in the restoration of the solid content digested. And quality of material was not necessarily considered in the best filter material. As you see in the graph, the air-raid polyester trapped the most content of the equal digested amount of 10 ml. And the 30 micrometer filter material followed by air-raid material was in order as indicated, which is XT21, XT63, and XT23. And the next material was steel with the 60 micrometer. And the last three material of the terms of the mass accumulation was PP 120, followed by box 335B with the less accumulation material, which is the box of 2004. And material with similar pores collected more solids than material with a bigger pores. This trend was true for the material besides air-red polyester, which had the highest mass accumulations. And the least favorable material for application was air-rated polyester, since solid was difficult to extract. And the box that is indicated 1004 was the least suitable, since it trapped the low number of solids due to the large polarity. And on the amount of the water recycled, obtained using the various filtration of 100 ml for the digested gave an indication of the amount of the water recycled. And from the results, a low digested P2 had a mass of 9.73 grams for 10 ml sample. It was expected that the use of filtration membrane to trap the solid particles required for biofertilizer, would be provide the filtration with a volume less than the low digestates. And the steel, which was a 60 micrometer filter, had the highest number of filtrate of 7.3 grams, resulting in 77% water recycled. The material had the largest volume of filter required. This was due to non-porosity nature, which it carried, and which meant the absorbed water were filtering the fibers was more competitive. And the box of 1004 was the second most effective with the water recycled capacity of material recycled at the rate of 72%. And the third most effective recycled material was the box 335, which was recycled at the rate of 64%. And the water quality recycled, there was an understandable which filtration recycled the largest amount of water, which recycled the least. And the air-red polyester filtered had the lowest T of the TDDS, and it was expected that the material that trapped the amount of solid content resulted in the filtration of the low TDS. Yes.
Excuse me, sir, your audio again is breaking. Your audio is breaking again. I can hear you, but it's breaking. Not clearly. Still breaking, sir. No, it's still not clear. No, no.
Hello, sir. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
We can't hear a word from you. It's really breaking very bad. Uh, can you check your connection? Maybe there's something wrong with your connection. We can't really hear you. It's breaking very bad. You're not clear at all. Yeah. Okay. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
I think what? Okay, now you are back. Now we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you as well. Please proceed and let's try to
Okay.
finish with your presentation. Yes,
Okay.
sorry for that.
Let me just go to conclusions and just conclude once.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Welcome. It was concluded that at 60 ml still recycle the most amount of water, which was under 77.8%. The second most effective of the water recycled method with the box of 1004. Which was recycled at 72% of water, with the 30 micrometer material recycled at 51% and 60% of water. From the water perspective, it was determined that the steel under 60 micrometer material recycled the most amount of water. And when the solid material accumulated was compared with the recycle, it was concluded that the steel, the same steel of 60 micrometer was the most effective of the material. And I want to acknowledge University of Johannesburg Technology Innovation Agency, which is TIA, and PITS, which is the Process Energy and Environment Station. Please, any question? And thank you for attention.
Thank you a lot for your presentation, sir. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Everyone is on mute. Please, everyone try to check the back noise of where you're staying. The floor is open for question. Hello?
Okay.
Since no one has a question, can we please have our next presenter? Let's go back to Mr. Charles. Is Mr. Charles back? Okay, since Mr. Charlie is not here, is Mr. Emmanuel Etename and Mr. Abayomi Ilesani present?
Yeah, Abayomi Ilesani present. Thank you.
Okay, I'm making you the presenter. This is the second paper of our session, which is titled Re-Illustrating Old Books for Modern Day Reader, the Drama Boy, as a case study. So you are already the presenter, you can share your screen.
Yeah. Trying to share my screen now.
All right.
Okay. So have I okay, so I'm checking if the screen is in position now, please.
Everything is fine, so you can start. You have 12 minutes.
All right. Thank you. So the paper talks about re-illustrating old books for modern day readers. I hope you can hear me and the screen is sharing now.
Yes, we can hear you and see the screen.
All right. So re-illustrating old books for modern day readers by Abayomi Ilesani and Emmanuel Estrame from Department of Industrial Design, Federal University of Technology, Accra, Nigeria. Talking about book illustration, book illustration plays an important role when it comes to informing, educating, and influencing moral reading of young readers, and can talk about illustration, which are the pictures or set of visuals that are found in book. They help to make book understandable, and they help to raise cultural awareness among people. And with the help of illustration, story become easier for every reader to understand and enjoy. So, but as the language and social reality of time change, the improvement in tools, processes, and design used in book illustration has also changed. So, from a research from a survey by the researcher, it was figured out that most young people they find reading not as interesting as other multimedia materials like videos. This is because they even consider books written in the 60s out of date, particularly their social reality in terms of on the visuals. So this study attempts to address the problem of millennials' neglect of old storybooks. It aim to encourage young people to pick interest in reading old storybooks. This would not only inform them, it also help to revitalize generational transfer of knowledge, cultural values, and creativity, because these old storybooks, they are embedded in it a repository of our cultural values. For this study, the drummer boy used as a case study, and I'd like to mention a few information about the book. The book was written by Cyprian Kwesi, particularly for secondary school and the intermediate level, and used in both private and public secondary schools around West Africa, in Nigeria, and was published as far back as 1960. That was when it was first published, and then the next publication came in 1988 and goes on. And the book is actually in A5 size, having information of about 91 pages. And about the story now, the story talks about Akin, a blind young boy, and actually an interesting, captivating story. But it's not only about the story now, but also about the book that it contains socio-cultural makeup of the Yoruba people. For example, the Oro Festival. The Yoruba people make up the southwestern region of Nigeria, and this Oro Festival, for example, it's one of the major culture that is celebrated among the Yoruba people. Apart from that, it also represents the culture of Yoruba people in the clothing, the food, and even the physical environment. Therefore, by recreating this old book, by creating new illustration, it will help readers to grow both intellectual and emotional levels. Now, in conducting this, adopted practice-based research approach, and also being underpinned by social design method. So all the methodology was conducted in collaboration with teenage students of a secondary school in southwestern Nigeria. And social design, the researcher arrived at materials like media and tools. They help to bring about attitudinal changes. So the research starts from appraising today's readers and then goes on to investigate the process of making old and modern books, and after which an evaluation of the new book was conducted. So users' experience is important when it comes to determining product or service like this book, and how it adds value to a system or helps to solve problems. So the users which are they are engaged in the research activity. In order to investigate the attributes that the readers derive from reading old storybook, apart from education or job purpose, also found out that people read for entertainment and for information. And also illustration in old storybooks, it was found out that it helps to understand the story better among millennials, and a majority of accepted that they would have preferred a more colorful illustration considering the old book. In investigating the process of illustration of the old and modern book, from the old book, the of illustration used was hand drawn and a relief print method. But for this new book, the methodology adopts digital illustration with digital printing method. So the text in the book were untouched, but the ideas were conceptualized and visually interpreted to create sketches which are actually drawn or directly on the screen using the digital drawing tablet, and then goes on to develop the illustrations. In making this illustration, the social, the present of the situation reported in the book were visually represented to engage millennials about the reality of the present. After which the illustration were made, the printing and binding process was conducted, and then the book was produced. This is the final, the finished illustrated book. Apart from illustrating the book was redesigned, both the cover and the content, to meet the social reality of the present age, and for readers to be able the new illustrated book. So then after this production was made, the researcher goes on to evaluate the old and the new book. So on the left side here is the old illustration that was contained in the book at the time it's produced, and here is a picture of the new illustration that was made. And using a survey monkey, the results from respondents were captured using a missed call format, and from the responses, it was majority of the students, they prefer the newly illustrated book instead of the old one. So the research further went on to figure out, to investigate that, okay, what are the reasons for their preference? And respondents the whole book and claimed the book was simple and unbusy, while respondents who claimed they preferred the illustrations in the new book and claimed the book was simple, beautiful, understandable, colorful, and realistic. Respondents were allowed to make more than an option. They are able to make more than one choice, and in the process, it was also found out that they would have preferred old books.
Excuse me, sir, to interrupt. You are being left with 2 minutes. Can you please
Dr. Lopo.
New book. So it can be concluded that the book illustration it has helped to increase readership and to help to pass knowledge from past to modern days reader. Researcher also kept a logbook to help replicating the process. So it's recommended that all storybooks should be illustrated to give users access to social realities on past, and design modules should also be encouraged in secondary and tertiary institutions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for your paper. It's a very good paper. I'm a fan of reading, so I'm really interested in your paper. I'm going to open the floor so that people can ask questions, if any.
I see. So then I see 2 hands here. Ms. Charles Villarem and Marcel Castro and Mahabo have their hands up. So I think it's questions. So I'm going to unmute them to ask their questions if you don't mind. Mr. Charles, please proceed. You have a question for this presentation. Mr. Charles, can you hear us? Dr. Charles, sorry for the title. Can you hear us? You can't hear us. Okay. The next hand I see here, it's Marcel Castro. Can you hear us?
Amos. Buenas. Yes, hello, good morning. Sorry for the background family noise. Thank you for your presentation. I really enjoy it. And I have a question regarding the technology innovation. I think this is a great contribution, and it could be a great benefit for many areas. And my question is, when we look at innovation, usually we can measure the positive aspect that it brings and what it adds to the table, which have been proven in the research. And one question I'm interested in also to explore what things are lost, because even if there are not many, or the ones that are lost are way less than what is gained, there's always something lost, and that's also very important to make sure that the roots of the benefit of those stories are preserved, and the benefits are passed on with every technology innovation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Abayomi, are you here?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. I get you right. There's a little background noise there, but I get asking what this research brings to the table. Actually, the research is intended to increase readership and particularly to help to bring stories written in the past now to help young us to understand the story and not just understand the story, but to have it in the present with present technology and present situation. And particularly that is what the research concentrate on. And also about the things that it helps to also help to figure out the things that are that could also be done maybe in order to I'm trying to get the second question, but I didn't really get that. Well, the idea is that it's trying to help to bring the story down and people, young readers, to pick interest in readership. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for your paper. Is there any question again? No one? Okay, I personally have only one question, which is related to the cost effectiveness of the research output. I can see that the new books have more colors, which implies that they're going to cost a little bit more to be printed. In case we do not meet the market, can the how can I say, can the author still make or generate profit from their books, since the new one require more color?
Yes, thank you. In the process of in the new illustration, the like I mentioned, the researcher has kept a logbook where the activities were kept for reflexivity and even for replication purpose. Therefore, of the idea of how these books may be replicated either for other old storybook was also in mind, and it's in this case we are trying to look for tools that are we can easily get hands on around, that are easily found and cheap and available, and they're looking for a way in which we can still maybe make some adjustments to the colors and the implement without losing the idea of bringing back the old movement back to the present moment. So it's actually currently with the production, it's a cost a little it's requires some cost, but the researcher also looking for a way to bring it down to what it can be easily reproduced. That is why logbook was kept, to keep all of this, and also considering replicability of similar projects in the future. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. We're going to ask our next presenter to get ready. The next paper has for title "The Influence of Laser Process Parameters on the Clad Geometry of a High Entropy Alloy Using Response Surface Methodology." The author are Modupeola Dada, Patricia Popola, Tombizodwa Mate, Sisa Pitiana, Samson Adeosun, and Olufemi Alamedi.
Okay, I see one of the author here, Modupeola Dada. Are you the presenter? Please let us know. Okay, you can go ahead. You are now the presenter. Please share the screen. Okay, we can see it. Please proceed. It's coming right. Sorry, Modupeola, so excuse me. We can't hear you. Your audio is very, very bad. We can't hear you properly. Your audio is breaking very bad. We can't hear you very well. You can try to refresh your connection, maybe. Maybe it's going to work. We can't hear you properly. Still not.
ibẹ̀ ni mo ní kẹ́ ẹ̀ bá mi ìṣẹ̀ bá mi ó sì wà ń bẹ̀ náà mo rà ń tu díẹ̀ díẹ̀ náà kí ni then ẹ bá mi pé
If you can hear us, we still can't hear you. I would suggest you can try to log out and log in again. Okay, Mr. Chair of the session, done. I will suggest we move to the next one. Then we can we're going to allow her to come back after this presents, and once she should try to fix her issue with the connection. Thank you.
All right. Since the connectivity is not well, we're going to proceed with the next presenter. The next paper is titled Application of Artificial Bee Colony, ABC, Algorithm in a Big Box Store or Retail Facility. The author are Mr. Modestus Oku, Loguj Tatibu, and Ifeyiwa Orji.
I was thinking of whether I should tell them Saturday. Because I do the money, I have the money with me.
Mr. Oku, can you please start your presentation?
When I was this guy going to South Africa. He also wants to use the extrudent.
Okay, I'm with you now. Good afternoon, everyone.
One of it was.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Modestus Oku. A postdoc research fellow at University of Johannesburg. Nice. Yeah, so our paper is titled The Application of Artificial Bee Colony Algorithm in a Big Box Store. Yeah, so here we are trying to looking at the bee algorithm. Yeah, according to Albert Einstein, he said to solve real life problem, we have to look deep into nature. So one of these aspects of interesting nature-inspired system is the bee algorithm. So we tried looking at literature. We know that researchers have been trying to look at the possibility of solving problems using the bee algorithm, and it can be used in solving cost optimization problem, inventory control problem, and scheduling and other related interesting problems. Yeah. So, but here we tried as much as possible to look at the pattern of navigation of the bee, try to look at how we can solve a problem in a big box store. So research is focused on intelligent foraging of the bees by designing the ABC algorithm, and the swarm-based meta-heuristic algorithm was applied to investigate the effectiveness of product sales in a big box store or a retail outlet. Yeah. So yeah, this is the introduction here. So looking at the bee algorithm, we'll try to look at how we can use it to solve a problem in a store. And I will just quickly, talk about the foraging behavior of the bees. Yeah, the The colony of the artificial bee consists of 3 groups of bees. The first part is the employed bees. We have the onlookers and the scouts. So the first half of the bee colony consists of employed artificial bees, and the second half include the onlookers. And the number of employed bees is equal to the number of food source around the hives. And the employed bees whose food source has been exhausted in the hive becomes the scout entirely. So for now, I'll look at the foraging aspects and not the total colony. So the foraging aspects now, we can classify that into 2. The first part is the scouts, and we have the onlooker. The scout bees, they move out of the nest trying to source for opportunities elsewhere, while the onlookers stay back and colonize the territory. So here is the Waggle. I try to also look at the Waggle dance of the bees. Yeah, for the Waggle dance, yeah, we have the scouts that share information, with a probability proportional to the probability of the food source, via Waggle dance. While the onlookers are there watching the dance step of the scouts, and they tend to navigate to a new area if they notice, the pattern of the dance determines whether there is an opportunity where they are going. So they watch closely before they navigate. So then that's where we try to look at the self-organizing properties of these interesting bees in terms of the positive feedback that they give. A good nectar attracts more bees. When there's a positive feedback, by the scouts, the onlookers to navigate to a new place, meaning that the dance step changes in such an interesting way that will make the onlookers navigate to the new place through communication. The negative feedback, abandonment is possible whenever they move to a new site, and it's also dependent on the pattern of the dance step. Then fluctuations, random search process for discovering the new place, Whenever they notice that there's no longer something interesting in their old sites, they tend to start, performing a kind of operation that will make some of the scouts navigate to a new area in search of a new place. Then the last part is the multi-interactions. That's multiple interactions. Sharing information about the food source with mates at dance area. With that communication pattern, they tend to tell, their mates what is really going on at a place. And we looked at it and said, okay, this is applicable in big box store where we have facility and we have humans too. In some situations, the human beings can also behave like bees, where they tend to share information about particular products in a system. So that necessitated our visiting a big box store, where we got having about 16 sections. Yeah, but let me quickly go straight to the bee algorithm flow charts. Here have the initial population, of the scouts, then evaluate the fitness of the population, then select M sites for neighborhood search, determine the size of the neighborhood, then recruit bees for selected sites, select the fitness. So the question is that if there is a new population, according to the dancing pattern of the scouts, then there is possibility of abandonment. So if the answer is yes, then foraging is stopped and a new site is created. Or if the answer is no, then the scouts will have to navigate back, trying to search for another, opportunity elsewhere. So the probability of the search process is shown here, where PI represents the probability of selecting a food source by onlooker bees. Then the fitness of the fitness function is also shown here. Then E subscript B is the total number of food source position. So let me quickly looking at a particular system, where we have a big box store with 16 different sections. We actually got data sets based on primary and secondary, sourcing of data. We got information from the system. We also went there physically to get data, looking at what is really going on from morning till evening, try to watch how, customers navigate to a particular system, the pattern of product they get at a particular system from morning till evening. But we noticed that they have 16 sections in this very big box facility we visited. That's for product-based. And we also have the service-based sections where they have 4 different products, where customers will have to queue to get these products here. So we tried to look at the two scenarios and tried, as much as possible to, mimic the B algorithm to solve problems on the data sets we obtained.
Maybe it's going to be less than
after getting the data set, we try to key it into MATLAB and try to solve our problem based on the B algorithm concepts. And we observed that for section 3, with section 3 gave the most visited what's it called source. That's for the product-based systems. And we went further again to view the service-based system. We viewed the service-based system where at the service-based system, they have about 4 different products. They're the butchery, the seafood, the delicacies, and the bakery. So we noticed that, considering this the system, the most visited food source happens to be the bakery. And we tried to also view why people kept visiting the bakery and the time interval at which they visited the bakery, which happens to be in the morning. The bakery, you see people swarming towards that particular, system in looking out for products, and which is like the bread that they buy, then maybe because they want to prepare it in the morning. And something really, struck my mind while I was trying to look at the behavior of the bees and comparing it to, our observation at the big box store. We realized that something happens, when, a hot bread is served at a point when you say, okay, when the pan is shifted, you see people swarming towards that end, trying to, queue to get their hot bread. So at that period when they give a kind of signal, the person who gives signal is happens to be like the onlooker who is there to tell others that come, the bread is available, and you see others swarming towards that particular area. So within that period, within a very short period, you see people trying to clear the product they have available. So at the end of the day, we realized that for the product-based system, the section 3, which is where they have toiletries and also soaps and some other interesting stuff, people tend to patronize more of such products. And at the service section, the bread section attracted more customers. And the feedback is giving information to managers of the system in terms of getting products ready to this very area, trying to control the inventory in the system. And conclusion, having looked at the existing systems, the most highly rated net source of optimization happens to be the third section for the product based and the fourth section for the service based. So this is quite encouraging, trying to look at the algorithm and trying to profile solution in terms of getting the right product to the system. Because we also noticed while we were trying to get our data that there are sometimes people come around to get particular products and they make these products unavailable. So in that case, what happens is that there's possibility of benchmarking and also possibility of customers swarming to other big box stores. So in order to avoid this, recommendation has been made, and managers has also noted that it's possible that they have to always get these products ready at every time T to ensure that at least they meet up with the demands of customers at every time T. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you a lot, sir. I'm going to open the floor for questions.
There is a hand among the attendees.
I have a question.
Please go ahead. Marcel Castro has a question. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, my question is, and thank you for the work. Have you compared the B algorithm with other similar optimization like ant colony optimization or particle swarm? Because I think those might also give good results, and that if not, that could be a future work that could be interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're also looking at trying to compare results with other optimization algorithms. Yeah, but why we focused on the bee algorithm is because of the nature of the bees in terms of their swarming pattern. Yeah, they tend to behave like, just like you have a big box store where we're looking at the products available at a big box store as the kind of maybe like the nectar or flower that bees will have to swarm to get. You understand? That is unlike what we have in other algorithms available. Yeah, but why we concentrated on this bee algorithm is because they behave, the pattern of flow of the bees happens to be, they share a kind of similar pattern in terms of, the algorithm itself. Yeah, but we'll try and look at other algorithms and see how it works in the big box store.
Any more question? If we don't have any, I'm going to allow our next presenter to share with us his paper, which is titled Africana Philosophy, a Key to Ethical Appropriate Technology by Mr. Charles Verhaeren. Mr. Charles, you are muted. You can just look at the bottom of the screen.
Available.
Yes.
So if you could go to the next presenter, try and come back in again.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask our next presenter.
Well, I think Mr. Charles is
entitled. Mr. Charles say is not ready yet.
okay.
We should allow the next presenter
to
share. Okay. Our next presenter with the paper titled Internet of Postal Things, Unlocking Potential in the Postal Value Chain for Community Development and Appropriate Technology Perspective. The author are Gabo Mogola, Kemlal Ramdas, John Alfred Trimble, and Busi Daba. We can see Mr. Gabo Mogola.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me share the screen.
All right, sir.
Good afternoon. Is the screen visible?
Yes, the screen is visible. And we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I will move ahead. I've got only 12 minutes, so I will keep within the time. My name is Gabo Mogola from University of South Africa. I've written this paper with Prof. Trimble, Prof. Ramdas from UNISA, and Sibusiso Xaba from the South African Post Office. The title is Application of Internet of Postal Things for Community Development and Appropriate Technology and Sustainability Development Perspective. We'll go through the introduction, a bit of literature review, methodology used, findings and conclusions. From introduction, the postal sector is not immune to the winds of change brought upon by the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which continues to disrupt business models as we know it. And the COVID-19 challenges, that happened recently also offers the post office opportunities that we will cover. And we argue that digitalization will reduce the cost of doing business within the post office. A bit of literature review. I will not go into everything, but community development is about, engaging with communities and partnering with communities. And the aim of empowerment should be, empowerment should be the goal of any community development project. Appropriate technology recognizes the social, environmental, cultural, political, and economic concerns that are significant just as technical requirements in the design of innovative products and services. This slide talks to the previous slide, and we argue that any community development project should result in community empowerment, but it should also take sustainable development into consideration. And the post globally has adopted 3 sustainable development goals, which are part of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, and is number 8, which is decent work and economic growth, because the post office employs globally around 5 million people. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. The post is one of the organizations with a very wide infrastructure within countries, and we want also from point number Agenda 2030 SDG number 17, which is partnership for the goals. As the postal sector, we want to work together so that we can also assist in attaining these sustainable development goals. Regarding appropriate technology, we say when you consider implementation of AT projects, we need to consider things like affordability, local services and materials, ecological impact, cultural acceptability, appropriateness for social context. The project must be transparent, community must be able to understand it and be able to use it, and match to local skills. And we also say such projects will benefit with things like improved productivity. The postal sector is measured with 4, we call them integrated index for postal development, which are the outcomes, the issues of reliability, reach, relevance, and resilience. And we want to integrate these 4 aspects or dimensions with the Internet of Postal Things. How can we utilize Internet of Postal Things to ensure that the post office is more reliable, is able to reach people in different and diverse communities, is relevant to the changing demands of the customer, and is resilient in terms of being able to innovate. The postal sector was hit by a couple of waves. The first wave was postal automation that started in the 1990s, revenue generating services, because we all know that the post are struggling financially. So some revenue generating services started also in the 90s when liberalization happened, especially in Europe. And the other wave from 2000 was digital to enhance the core. The core of the post office has always been mail. How do you better use, or how do we enhance the core, which is defend mail? But with the 4th industrial revolution upon us, the post has to move to digital transformation, otherwise it will collapse. For Industry 4.0 perspective, we argue that we need to be able to use things like mobile devices to better connect communities, things like smart sensors, because the post office has a wide range of vehicles that go around the country and crisscross the country every day. We should be able to collect data for different things that we're going to talk to in the next slides. Here we're talking about the Internet of Postal Things. This is the DNA of the Internet of Postal Things, where we say physical objects, which are the things themselves, such as the parcels, mailbox, or vehicles, or it can be infrastructure in the sense of buildings, instrumentation, which is the sensors that are used to collect the data. How do we connect, being able to remotely collect the data from a variety of buildings and different facilities, and analytics in terms of how do we analyze those particular data so that we can better serve the community, and how do we produce or develop new products that talk to the changing world. And I'm going to speak only about services. This is what the USPS is doing in the US. And because we are talking about community development, we will only focus on the orange part where there is an arrow. For instance, the USPS is part of the Smart Cities project, where you are trying to connect the postal infrastructure to local government, provincial government, or national government. They also do things like home care, logistics, because the postman moves around the country. So who's better placed than the postman to be able to do home care support services, for instance, check on the elderly who are living alone and things like that, remote meter readings, because the post goes to all these areas. If the post has, for instance, in South Africa, if you have sensors or transponders in communities where they can generate data from, let's say, water usage or electricity usage, but as the post office car passes, it can collect the data automatically through Wi-Fi, for instance, and be able to feed that information to municipalities who can build that lines. Part of the literature review, without wasting time, I'm going to talk to issues of gap in technical sophistication. One of the current challenges with Internet of Things security is that the security is not sufficiently sophisticated. And I'm going to talk to only where you see the red arrows, because that's where it applies to the post office. The 2B industry organizations are slow to create regulations that keep pace with technological advances. For instance, the post office, being a member of SAPOA, which is the Southern African Postal Operators Association, how can the post office better come with regulations on digital transformation so that it can create an ecosystem within Southern Africa so that every post and every communities within Southern Africa is able to benefit? And sometimes inability of postal sector to see this full value of IoT security is because sometimes the end user of IoT or Internet of Things devices lack insight in terms of what is really the value of this particular platforms. But with cooperation within industry, this barrier can be dealt with. The methodology used was interpretivism. The research approach was inductive. We're trying to build theory. The research strategy was a case study because we're using the postal sector. The research choice was qualitative. Data collection was through secondary sources, and data analysis was through a critical review of literature. Findings, great potential for appropriate technology applications with regard to IoT, which is Internet of Things platforms, that can contribute to Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 is those particular 3 SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals that I spoke to. And the post can be able to do community service, for instance, home care logistics, lost and found e-services, digital inclusion, where the post office can be the center of digital inclusion, in the sense that it can host community Wi-Fi, it can do digital microfinance, it can also play part in the whole smart cities where communities are linked to their local government. Things like government e-services, which can be done digitally, things like motor vehicle renewals, possibility of using the post office for passports and identification documents, rather than using banks. Currently, government is using the private sector because of issues of capacity within the post office. we are proposing this particular framework that community development always has to result in community empowerment. And we are seeing that the Internet of Postal Things, which is in the beginning, in the middle, should be a platform that government can use so that it can be close to communities that it represents. And communities can be able to engage with government through the post office. For instance, in Switzerland, the post office is responsible for voting. They run the biggest platform of IoT when it comes to voting. So people vote through the post office Internet of Postal Things platform. So these are the things that the post office can do in order to move into the digital space and move away from the traditional sometimes the post office is said to be slow-paced, snail mail. So we need the post office to be more faster. It must do things faster, better, but also it must do things differently. And if the postal sector does not embrace this whole digital revolution, the postal sector will go down the tubes. Conclusions, IoT applications is nearly infinite in enabling ubiquitous seamless integration of physical realm and the cyber realm. And this can be demonstrated, for instance, in South Africa, where the post office was currently distributing the COVID relief fund, but all recipients could not go to the post office to register. You do it digitally through your cell phones, either through an app or through USSD, which is another, good thing of ensuring that the post office goes digital. The proliferation of mobile devices in South Africa, also in the region, which is Southern Africa, gives opportunity for governments to be in sync with communities that it represents, with the post office as the ideal partner for all the three spheres of government, here being the local government, provincial government, and national government. Thank you. That was the end of my presentation.
Thank you a lot. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. I'm going to open the floor so that people can ask questions. Does anyone have a question on the previous presentation? Hello? All right.
Looks like there are no questions.
Yeah, apparently there are no questions. We're going to go back to our previous presenter. Mr. Charles, are you ready?
Yes, I am. If you can get me share screen, please.
All right. Give me a minute.
Okay, thank you.
And good morning. While we wait for the presenter to start, I think there is somebody with the mic open. I don't know if it's possible to turn it off. Thank you, and looking forward to hear you, Charles.
Hey, Thanks a lot, Marcel.
Okay, Mr. Charles, you are now the presenter. You should be able to share your screen and please go ahead.
All right. Everyone will see. Help.
Yes, sir, we can see your slide and we can hear you. Can you please try to talk a little bit near your micro so that we can hear you properly?
Okay. How about, can you hear me now all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, wonderful. So the title is Africana Ethics, a key to sustainable development through appropriate technology. And I'm Charles Verheeren, the lead on this. Here's my authors, and I want to show you just what their different disciplines are that are important to what we do as a research team. Here is our research problem, and our essay's hypothesis is that humanity's collective ethical systems have failed to guarantee a future. So to our future existential crises, and there are 5 of them: climate change, the 6th mass extinction, weapons of mass destruction, government-inspired global terrorism, and zoonotic pandemics, the last being the most recent. But the worst that we face is catastrophic climate change. So we have our solution to our research problem, and that is Africana ethics. In Africana, we mean both on the continent and in the diaspora. And the ethics is linked to all science, and solution delivers an African and African-American response to the existential challenges confronting Africana peoples and the wider global South. So the solution, the practical solution, uses the African eco-village model developed by Professor Godfrey Zamujo, one of our keynote speakers here at ICAT. So the models have African origins, are grounded in an African sentimentalism first expressed in ancient Egypt some 5,000 years ago. This ethics must be the product not simply of philosophers, that would be the least of our participants, but also scientists, engineers, but most importantly, all stakeholders in the communities that adopt. So the ethical model's urgency, unless it addresses the well-being of every human as well as other organisms together with the environment that makes life possible, life as we know it will have no future in it. So the essay's first section considers the ethical systems of 2 African-American philosophers, Alain Locke and W.B. Du Bois, and both insist that the only path to a viable future is through ethical. So Alain Locke's Radical Ethics, Part 1. So he's our inspiration for philosophy as a team sport. So for Locke, he said that appropriate ethics requires a team of philosophers, anthropologists, sociologists, and psychologists. And our research team adds engineering, environmental and climate science, chemistry, pharmacy, biology, and we're adding others as we go. But most importantly, ethics must be from the ground up, and the ground is the primary stakeholders in local. So his Radical Ethics Part 2, he says that ethics must be the foundation of every course taught in the curriculum. He says no course can be taught unless it's clear to both students and faculty how the course is vital to their survival and flourishing. And the courses must be designed to help students learn how to solve what they passionately perceive as their own problems. So a truly ethical education aims not at the assimilation of knowledge, but the creation knowledge. So now to Du Bois's Radical Ethics. It's in a great book that was put together, The Education of Black People. It's on the ethical obligation of historical colleges and universities in the U.S. He says most importantly, they have a responsibility to the underserved communities that justify the continuing existence of HBCUs and by extension Africana universities. Now here's the kicker for Du Bois. He claims that the overarching mission of HBCUs, that's historically black colleges and universities in the United States, is to universalize university education. That would mean that virtually every human being is educated to the point where they could participate in this ICAT 9 conference. So, is that a mission impossible? Universal university education. So here's Du Bois. He says, can't happen in his day, but it's a question of time. Someday it will happen. So is it possible, with what we just heard from the presenter on the possibilities of the Postal Service, with information communication technology, and the Stanford, MIT, Oxbridge, massive open online course examples, it is now possible. However, is a university education for the poorest of the poor in the global South? This is the tough one. So the African philosopher Godfrey Zamujo has developed a model that translates ethical theory into practice. So his model makes primary through post-secondary education grounded in ethical theory available to the poorest of the rural poor in Africa. How does it work? It establishes eco-villages grounded in a philosophy of sustainability made possible through appropriate technologies in information communication, energy, and agroecological technology. The villages are rooted in African traditions, enhanced by independence from commercial fertilizers and pesticides, and interlinked with a network of Songhai centers and the communities in which the centers. So what's the foundation? This is the most critical point. First, the villages are autochthonous. That means they're rooted in the very soil, the physical and cultural traditions of African cultures. But they are interdependent with other Songhai centers and neighboring communities to the degree possible. They are authentic, and that means they're dedicated to the survival and flourishing of community members through the instruments of education and appropriate. So what is the engine of Zamujo's model? It's ethical education through the Songhai Leadership Academy. So you get primary and secondary education with access to global resources via information communication technology. What Zamujo does is to synthesize Du Bois's liberal arts education and Booker T. Washington's practical arts education. The Songhai Leadership Academy is able to transmit the power of this kind of education, not simply to the community members, but to other Songhai centers throughout the network, and importantly, to the neighboring communities where possible. So, radical proposal for INAT. This is what is most important in what we say. We propose a global consortium based on the Songhai model, facilitated through the International Network on Appropriate Technology. We've already started research initiatives in Africa, Asia, and the Americas grounded in the model's co-principles. So what about the funding? That's going to be critical because the information communication technology requires massive funding. So we know that funding from the global north in traditional systems does not work. So we have 7 fundraising proposals to support a global consortium, and the principle is bottom-up versus top-down funding. And the primary stakeholders will always be local communities, local universities, local businesses, local governments. chart too complicated for you to process, but the most important is number one on the left side towards the top, community initiated project. So everything has from the community. Number three, all the stakeholders, and then we work through possible global village experimentation, and then we present that to possible funders and try and set up the international network. Is this a mission possible? A global consortium of agroecological villages on the Songhai model. Well, of course it's possible because Zamujo started in Benin and now it's spread to 17 other African countries and 50 sites. So there, the most important part of this diagram is the Songhai Leadership Academy, because that permits the transmission of the Songhai agroecological village out of Porto Novo to the others, and we would use that same model to try and make a global of that. So are these villages a global solution to existential problems? Yes. Villages aim at zero carbon, so that would take care of global climate change. They eliminate extreme poverty in rural Africa, and they provide universal university education in African agroecological. Du Bois's final ethical commands to Africana universities: spearhead the movement to universalize university education, join the movement to globalize agroecological villages. So it's been in Africa. There are examples on the same ethical model in India. So here is Du Bois and Zamujo, the ethics in the INAT manifesto. Look at INAT's founding and history. Look at what INAT has done throughout Africa. And think of INAT as an instrument for globalization of the Songhai agroecology. Copies of slides to my email. Also published articles in the Western Journal of Black. Title on that, Coupling Ethical STEM Research to Community Engagement at Africana Universities. And I've just published another article in Ethics and Education on the future of ethics and education philosophy in a time of existential crisis. Thanks very much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to
Thanks a lot for your presentation. It was a very good one. We're going to open the floor so that people can make comment. Do we have any comment or any question to the presenter?
Yes, I've got a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Charles, for this wonderful presentation. I have a question which really speaks to myself personally. You said that we should promote community-based initiatives, like meaning we need to fund ideas which are coming from the communities. But what can we do in the instance where there are communities in Africa where the people either they are very much ignorant, right, and they've got no clue of what's really they need for their growth or for their own development, or they are just the community is just too much corrupt, or they've got very very bad attitude, or just a very bad education in the face. So that there's no way they can come up with a good initiative or good idea for their own benefits. What can we do in such cases, which is reality in many of our African cities or communities?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you very much. And I think that the shortest, quickest response is simply to look at Professor Godfrey Zamujo's own actions in what kinds of obstacles he had to overcome. So as you know, he got his education in the United States, and taught in the United States, and then decided that he wanted to take the skills that he had, so many skills in so many disciplines, in computers, in biology, in agroecology, just a tremendous number of skills. And he took those to Nigeria and he said, please just give me a plot of land and let me start. And Nigeria, of course, refused. And for some reason or another, he found a helpful audience in Benin, and they gave him a tract of land utterly useless. It was good for absolutely nothing. And he took that tract. Now, the critical thing was, how did he get the funding? And that is the absolute key to get the funding to begin to start, both with the information communication technology, which is vastly expensive, but more importantly, with all of the other agroecological technology. So he fought this thing through. So what it takes is an individual like that who has this incredible background and incredible political, economic, and social skills to make something happen. And then the power to spread that into 17 other countries in Africa. I mean, that's incredible. But the bottom line is this: the Songhai Leadership Academy is the key to everything, because anyone who wants to can go to Porto Novo, take the courses there, acquire the kinds of skills that will make this kind of agroecological village possible. But what's absolutely critical is, can you find an individual who can assimilate the skills necessary and actually bring these to bear in the foundation of the village? And as you point out, the most important skill is going to be political, to fight through the obstruction that will be brought to bear to resist this kind of movement, because Professor Zamujo has had tremendous resistance. He was trying to take the agroecological village over to Haiti. Monsanto, the chemical company, has an experimental farm there. They found out what he was doing, and all diplomatic relations between Haiti and Benin were terminated immediately, because what Professor Zamujo wants is no genetically modified organisms, no pesticides, no fertilizers. He would cut the heart out of Monsanto's business. So there will be tremendous resistance to this kind of movement. But the fact that it has multiplied to the point that it has means that this movement has so much power, it can actually be globalized. Thanks very much for that question.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Thanks a lot, Professor. Do we have any more question?
I have a question.
Mr. Marcel?
Yes, it's Marcel Castro from Puerto Rico. Thank you, Charles, for your talk. I was reading this morning an article from a colleague in philosophy of technology, and he was talking about MOOCs. And it is important to me because of what you propose, which is a locally based bottom-up movement that becomes global in the Songhai level, which is, as you said, it has a lot of challenges. And specifically with the MOOCs, the criticism is not that it's a bad thing, but I like the metaphor that my friend uses. It's like a book, right? So a book is important in education, but universities cannot be based only on books, right? It's just, you cannot have a MOOC university. So I'm wondering if you can provide a little more insight into how to address this issue of distance, of virtuality. Like, and this conference is an example of that. We did not want to have a virtual conference because we know that it exacerbates some inequalities with the access to the fast internet, but we didn't have a choice. So how do you propose to go around these issues that having a global movement presents? Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant question, Marcel, as per usual. And the answer is, again, local community, local community, local community. So what happens in Porto Novo, for example? I spent a month there with Professor Zamujo in our last ICAT conference in 2018, November in Porto Novo. And it is a community, and it is a community grounded in the idea of an African village. And so every member of that community is educated. There can be no uneducated people in a Songhai village. And how does the education work? It's a community education. So we have the MOOCs, the information communication technology from all the world, but it has to be translated into the community. So the primary and secondary education is absolutely first rate. It prepares everyone to go on to the point where they can actually begin to enhance the communities that they live in, but more importantly, to go out and start their own Songhai centers in other places in Africa. So the MOOC is, as you say, as your philosopher said, it's just a book. But the book has to be read. It has to be read in a community. It has to be a community of learning, and it has to be supported by everyone in the community. And that's why the Songhai Leadership Academy is so important. So to take that primary and secondary education and elevate it to a university level with so much intellectual power, so much practical power, that it can be translated into other communities in Africa, and we are hoping around the world. And you'll see other examples of that. There's a particular ashram in India that's based on healthcare and specifically based on cancer treatment. So their primary focus is they have their autonomy, their independence, in the ashram, but what they do is focus on cancer care. And so any center anywhere in the world could take a special responsibility for the problem that they perceive to be greatest. But again, unless there's a community that is completely dedicated to the well-being and first the survival, of course, but most importantly, the well-being of its members, then this movement simply cannot fly. And Professor Godfrey Zamujo has demonstrated exactly how to make it work. So thanks. I hope that helped, Marcel.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Do we have any additional comment or question to ask our professor? Since we do not have any, thanks a lot, Professor, for your presentation.
And thank you. I really appreciate it.
I am going to ask Madam Dada if she is ready to present to us a paper. Madam Dada, are you ready to present? excuse us for the delay, Madam Dadat. Now you are a presenter. Can you please place the micro a little bit further than you? Hello, can you please try to adjust your micro? It's not coming out properly. The sound is not coming out properly. Still not coming out properly. No. No, we cannot hear you. We really can't hear you. The mic is still not audible. Because of the sound issue, can we try to reschedule you for a session tomorrow? All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. This is the end of our session today. We thank you for your attention, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please do fill the form to assess how the presenter was, and we look forward to meeting you for our next conference. Enjoy your evening.